Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Alex Cuesta Daily Show. I hope nobody missed me yesterday as I did not put a show out. I apologize. What really happened was I'll tell you a quick story because there was a lot to get through tonight. But yesterday, recorded my Alex Cuesta Show podcast with David, and we had on a special guest in Hack, Mr. Hack No Cap, recording artist. And we got into a really, really good discussion on the show, like really good. It's a long episode. It's a really good episode. I enjoyed it. And then we talked a lot after. And then I was just too fucking tired to do the show because the article that I had picked out was a long article about Joe Biden giving the okay for other federal agencies to look into more things about CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. And America's on their way to getting one. I think the article was from Fox Business. I don't have the exact article in front of me, but what I want to say is go research that and see what happened there. Go just look up Joe Biden executive order CBDCs. And it's scary because they're going forward. And we've talked about CBDCs on here before and their dangers of what they are. And I'm not going to go over it again here because, again, like I said, I have a lot to do. So before we go any further, please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes, and spread this word of mouth. Let everybody know you love the show. And socials, go search the Alex Cuesta Show anywhere you can find social media. And before we forget, today is Thursday, March 10th, 2022. We're going to go into the Biden COVID tracker. We're going to do it quickly. And then I'm going to jump into the topic because the topic is long. The topic is really important, and it's actually just something that's been annoying me. So I'm going to rant about it. There's no article today. It's going to be a Alex Cuesta rant. So I hope everybody enjoys that. But let's go. Biden COVID tracker. When I last spoke to everybody on Tuesday, we were at 79,271,466 cases and 959,578 deaths. We were trending in a good direction then. As of today, 79,332,220 cases. That's an increase in 60,754. And deaths were at 963,307, increase in 3,729 deaths. The 3-day average, or 2-day average, I should say, 2-day average for cases is at 30,377, a little bit more normal from what we were seeing before. It's a definite uptick. I don't want to say that it's another quote unquote outbreak, but it's an uptick, certainly an uptick. And the deaths, the average was around 1,865, which is a little bit higher than what we previously saw, but that's still in a non-acceptable range, but a better range than we've seen at the peak. So I still think we're on a downward trend here. I'm going to look into it some more tomorrow, see where the trends are. But again, holding Joe Biden accountable. He's now he's going to be responsible for almost 600,000 deaths coming up pretty soon. He's at 963,000. He's going to have 600,000 deaths on his ledger when we reach right around 10,000. So until they name this an endemic, we will continue to track him. We will continue to hold him responsible because the man with the plan failed to come through. And that's just the reality of it. Joe Biden failed on COVID, just like he is failing on everything else, especially the topic that we are going to talk about tonight. What I have seen on social media has been starting to piss me off. And it's tempted me to do the whole dumb thing where I write a big, long diatribe and a few people see it. I get a few likes and it's like, oh, great. He said something. And then whatever, maybe start a dumb Facebook fight. Instead, I saved that topic for my podcast because this is what I do, talk politics. So that's what I'm going to do. And what I was seeing a lot is we know right now that gas prices, heating prices for our houses, basically fossil fuel prices in general have all skyrocketed. And people are starting to complain, especially about the gas pipe. We went up over by me here in Poughkeepsie, New York. I'm right around $4.50 a gallon. That's huge. That's insane. That's insane. Considering we were right around $2 a gallon not too long ago. It is really not that long ago we were near $2 a gallon. But now we're looking and we're right around $4.50. It's going to continue to go up. And people are bitching about it on social media, which is their right to do. But then you have the people that respond and will respond with the most condescending and stupid shit to say about, oh, you shouldn't be complaining about the price of gas. And we're going to go over their reasons and suggestions. A lot of them are just being fucking snooty. And the reason is because most of the people complaining are upper middle class, college educated people. They're the people that have good jobs. They're the people that probably kept their jobs throughout the pandemic. The ones that currently, as we sit with all the prices, can weather the storm. Because more than likely, if they have a good job, their spouse probably also has a pretty good job. So they probably have a decent household income. So they can weather this storm. And on top of that, a lot of these fucking people probably voted for Biden. So of course they're going to do anything to deflect away from saying it's his fault. They can never admit that. So, instead, they're taking it on their fellow Americans and saying, well, stop bitching, stop your complaining. But what gets better is some of these people decide to make suggestions. It's a beautiful thing because, they're so privileged. They can weather it. They're so tough. They saved their money and have their good jobs. And now we're going to tell you what you should do instead of complaining. So let's go over some of their suggestions here, shall we? One of my favorites here is travel less. Yeah, travel less. Don't go out. Don't do shit. Go back into lockdown. You might as well just go back into lockdown. Don't travel because, if you think the gas prices are so high, which they are, just, don't travel. Travel less. Another one that I love, get a better job. If you're angry, go make more money. It's so simple. Just go get a better job, right? Just go do that. Another one, and this is being peddled by the administration too, switch to an electric or hybrid car. Get rid of that gas clunker. You are hurting the environment and you could be helping it by getting a hybrid and electric. And I'm going to go over a little more on all these little topics here. So I'm just giving you the synopsis here. Ride a bike or exercise instead to get to work and such. Yeah, that's a legitimate suggestion. People are actually saying that. Take public transportation. That's always a big one. Same people saying this, so the fucking people are like, we need bullet trains everywhere. Let's just get bullet trains. You see Japan, you see China, get their bullet trains. That's the same people. Take public transportation. Again, stupid fucking people. Another one that they all kind of jump in with is, this is a small price to pay to defend democracy. Defend democracy. These people, the same ones that say are talking about democracy, if they have the balls to talk about defending democracy. And lastly, another fan favorite here, because, people just love to play on the emotions. The people of Ukraine have it worse. So who are you to complain? Look at the poor people of Ukraine in war-torn Ukraine right now, because evil Putin invaded them, and the brave and valiant West needs to come to their aid. So if we have to pay a little more in gas in order to put a stop to Putin and really stick it to Russia, that's okay. Let's do it. It's the American and patriotic thing to do. So let's go over all this. So like I said, most likely these people that are saying this fucking shit are upper middle class, college educated people, more than likely. I don't know all their backgrounds. I don't know the background of everybody saying it, but more than likely that's your demographic, especially they're the snooty ones that are willing to give everybody fucking advice. Not saying I don't give advice on here. I do, but I don't think I do it and come at it from an elitist standpoint. They come at it from, well, stop being a fucking peon. Stop. Are you stupid? Do you not have any sense? This is the sensible thing. Listen to us. And another reason why people like this have no problem giving you this type of advice. Like I said, they can afford things right now still. They're still in a pretty good situation. So even as they see the prices increase, they're going to do what they have to do in order to set themselves up. They're going to make a big trip to BJ's or Costco or Sam's Club and load up on a ton of shit. They can drop $500-$600 in a sitting to really load up and really prepare just in case shit really hits the fan and prices get super high. They probably have an extra fridge or an extra ice box in their house where they can throw a bunch of meat, a bunch of chicken, a bunch of whatever, anything frozen to keep it fresh. They definitely have the extra space in their houses to do this type of stuff. And while they're able to do all this, your typical lower middle class, lower class person is struggling right now. whether they're only getting government subsidies or they are just living paycheck to paycheck, and they have to decide, okay, we have to go get this item of food today. There's a lot of families living that way, especially with a lot of the shit that went on during the lockdowns. But no. You know what? It's okay. Just be better. Don't go out. Travel less. Don't go out and get that item you need just because you're rationing out your money to figure out where the fuck you could spend it because you're just worried about paying your bills, which that also went up. Everything went up. Electric went up. If you have natural gas, which used to be good, that went up. If you get oil delivered, that went up. Everything went up. So while they're saying, yeah, don't go out as much, you're still getting fucked and you're still paying more everywhere. So whether or not you drive and get gas at the pump, you're still getting hit everywhere. So the person that is struggling to make ends meet already is getting everything raised on them. Everything. And your suggestion, travel less. Another beautiful suggestion, just get a better job. Easy coming from somebody who has a good job, who was able to land that good job. Now, don't get me wrong. They went to school. They did their part. They did the application. They did the interview. They probably have their job for good reason. But it's real easy to say, just get a better job. When we just went through a lockdown and a pandemic where millions of people lost their jobs and thousands of companies went out of business. So people that had good paying jobs lost them and are still recovering. A lot of people haven't completely gotten their jobs back. I remember we talked about jobs reports. Jobs reports are still coming out. Last time I did an episode on it, and that has to be maybe a month ago. Not even, I don't even know, less than a month ago. Joe Biden was celebrating making 6 million jobs. When he came into office, there were 10 million jobs left to get to recovery status, where we're back as an economy, not to be in a surplus, not to be creating new jobs, to get back. So we're still looking at millions of people that are out of the workforce that don't have jobs, but get a better one. And a lot of the people that went back and got jobs weren't able to go back to the job that they lost, and more than likely went to a job taking less just to work, just to maybe get insurance, because insurance got fucked up too when people couldn't work. And so you're saying get a better job. These people would go back to their old jobs if they could. And of course they would get better jobs. But it's not like, yes, there's a lot of jobs out there right now. Don't get me wrong. If you want to work, you can work right now, guaranteed. But a lot of people that lost their jobs were people that were making good money. And no, they're not going to go back most likely to getting that type of job. So again, get a better job. A really fucking elitist thing to say. Not going to lie. The other one, switch to a hybrid or an electric car. If somebody's complaining about gas prices and struggling to fill up their tank, what makes you think they're going to be able to go out and buy a new car or even get a hybrid, which aren't cheap? What makes you think that that is an option in their life to do that? Again, elitist, upper middle class, rich way of thinking. Oh, just go get a new car. Because to the upper middle class, it's really nothing to go trade in your car and just get the new car that you want. Yeah, you got to make payments on it, but you can make those payments. Your job is good enough to make those payments. But if you're legitimately concerned about the pump and that's hurting you, you're not going to be able to go out and get a new car. You're not going to be able to switch to electric. The average price of the electric car, I think it's been stated everywhere, is right around $60K. Now, again, there are cheaper options coming out. Don't get me wrong, but that's still more than out of people's price ranges, even if it's down to 30,000. That is a lot more out of people's price ranges. The typical person in America more than likely goes and buys used cars because they cannot afford to get new cars. So what are they going to do? Even when the used car values now are higher than a lot of new cars. So people are really fucked in general. They're going out and getting really shitty cars, but now they're getting fucked up by the gas pump. And your suggestion is just go out and switch completely and get a super expensive car that you can't afford. You probably can't afford the payments on, but no, just go do that. That's a great suggestion. The other one that's a doozy, ride a bike or get some exercise. That works awesome if you live near your job, honestly. If you live near your job, if you're within a mile or two of your job, do that. That's a great suggestion. But most jobs are probably around like 20 minutes to an hour away, not everyone's riding their bike like that. Not everyone wants to wake up at 4 a.m. to go and get ready and ride their bike to fucking work. People drive for a reason. And it's a great thing that we can drive because we can get these jobs further away. We don't have to be stuck getting jobs in our village like our ancestors used to because they couldn't fucking get anywhere. No, your suggestion is ride a bike or walk. That doesn't work in suburbia. That doesn't work in rural areas. Maybe it works in the cityscape, maybe, but the cities don't speak for everybody. And if you're living in a major city and that's your suggestion, that just goes and shows that you have no idea what the fuck you're talking about around the rest of the country. You're only living in city life and you have no idea what the real world is like, because a city and a lot of these leftist run cities are not the real world. They are not middle America at all. You go on to the taking public transportation one. That's another good one. Another good one. It's a great idea. If you live in a city where it's readily available and easily accessible. Yes, buses go around in suburban areas. I don't know what the fuck the deal is in rural areas. I don't live in rural areas, but buses do go around in suburban areas, but it's not half as frequent. It's not like there's a bus schedule that's really pointed and all the time, and you can go and get one if you're in a city. No, suburban buses are on a very different schedule. And if you can't hit that schedule or get to that bus stop, you're fucked. So now you want people to live around that bus schedule to potentially try and get to their job, which is going to be in the morning, which I guarantee that bus gets packed anyway. And now you're going to tell people to just go and load it up. So you're going to want municipalities to increase that. More buses on the road. And that's also going to raise taxes because they're going to have to now buy more buses, train more people, and do more of that type of shit. So you want to increase all that. That's not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's a terrible idea. And if you're somebody that goes into the city instead, from here in Poughkeepsie, a round trip ticket, daily ticket is $51 a day now. Last time I went to the city, I think it was like 27. And that was like 2 years ago. $51 a day to take the Metro North into the city from Poughkeepsie, New York. It's fucking terrible. And that's public transportation right there. And, I guess the only other option if you live out in suburbia is taking Uber. But that's still going to, if you're taking Uber every day, everywhere in suburban prices, nothing is close. Again, works in the city, does not work here in suburbia. So it's such an asinine thing to suggest. And then on top of that, a lot of these families have kids that do extracurricular shit. They go to dance, they go to swim, they do karate, they do baseball, basketball, football, whatever they do. Band practice, they play an instrument. Who knows? They have to take their kids places. And again, it's not a city situation. In the city, pretty easily, just hop on this bus, go teach them how to use the subway and shit like that. Go with them. In the suburbia, that's not happening. That's not happening. And a lot of middle-class people live in suburban areas. So what are they going to do? Just pull their kids out now just because you don't want people on the fucking road? Because you're okay with paying higher gas prices, because you're fine sitting in your nice 2-story house in your great development, speaking down to the little people. Sounds awfully generous of you and awfully, heartfelt of you, because goddamn, I wish we were all as cool and all as fortunate as you can be. And listen, I'm not talking from a place of being poor. I'm not talking like I'm, somebody that doesn't have the ability to do things. I do. I'm still very fortunate in my life right now. But I'm not going to sit there and talk down to anybody. That's what they're doing when they make these types of suggestions. Talk down to people. And that is just sitting on top of your ivory tower, virtue signaling on one hand about what you give a shit about. And then on the other hand, talking down to others. What a hypocritical fucking thing to do. The other beautiful one is the people of Ukraine have it worse, so you shouldn't complain. They are suffering. It is a tragedy what is going on in Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is wrong. Russia is wrong for going in and invading another sovereign nation. I've talked about this. I believe that we should be on Ukraine's side. As much as the West instigated this, since we did instigate this, it is our job to help get Ukraine out of it. I believe that. But we could be doing things here to mitigate that. And we're not. We should not have to suffer because Ukraine is getting invaded. That is not a legitimate reason to suffer. It isn't. And to be okay with it, to be complicit with it, just shows how fucking stupid and how much of sheep that you are to be okay with something like this. Like, why shouldn't we get to complain because others have it worse? I don't know if people that are saying this realize this, but there was shit going on before Ukraine. Fucked up stuff. People were suffering all around the world all the time. There are little kids being sex trafficked, women being sex trafficked. There are places in Africa. I forget the Aramo. One of my buddies always puts up something about, and I really meant to look into it. I need to. Apparently, there's a people being put down and being mistreated in parts of Africa, which we know goes on. There's the Uyghurs in China being persecuted. Where are you all those times? Where are you all of those times? You should be okay. If your standard is because somebody else is suffering and it's okay to suffer, we should feel bad because somebody else is suffering and it's okay. That's fine. You should deal with it. If that's your logic because of what's going on in Ukraine, then take that logic all the time. And that's such a stupid fucking logic. And the thing is, these people are opportunists and they're dumb sheep on top of that, but they're mostly opportunists. They're using a tragedy to push their bullshit. They're using a tragedy to push their bullshit. But you want to know why? Because the people that they read, the people that they listen to on TV and radio and podcasts are all doing the same thing. And they use emotion and bleeding heart techniques. Now, a lot of these people pushing this stuff, the thing about Ukraine is quite literally from an emotional part. But that's also why they're wrong, because they don't think logically. This is all emotion. And it's trying to shame you into feeling a certain way because you're struggling to maintain your way of life. Well, fuck you. You're not sitting on a concrete bunker wondering why bombs are falling over. You're not. No, you're not, because you live in the United States of America, goddammit. I'm sorry. Fortunately, you won the lottery when you were born to be born in this country, or if you immigrated here legally, you won the lottery of becoming an American citizen. And we have certain privileges that go with that. And there is nothing wrong with fighting to maintain your way of life and complaining and bitching when it is getting disrupted over something that should not disrupt it. Bottom line. And then on top of that, you have another beautiful one, that it is a small price to pay for democracy. Because, before all this happened, we were always lauding Ukraine about the beautiful democracy they were. They were one of the shining beacons of democracy. No corruption, no money laundering, nothing like that. Give me a fucking break. Most of the people didn't even know where Ukraine was that are talking about this. They didn't know Ukraine was a country before the Trump shit went on. But now you're saying that this is a fight for democracy. Ukraine chose their president and we need to stand by it. No, they actually didn't. It's pretty well known. Pretty well known it was kind of an overthrow and a revolution. Stoked by the West, not giving Putin a justification to invade a sovereign nation, but just spitting facts here that people don't want to either look at or admit. And another thing they don't want to admit, that this isn't a Ukraine, Russia, Putin problem. This is a Joe Biden issue. We barely get a fraction of the oil that we use a day from Russia, 500,000 barrels or something. When we tap into our emergency reserves and do use 60 million barrels, that's a 3-day production. We don't get that, enough to really affect. I think it's like 7%. It's on the grand scale of things, 7% is a hit. Don't get me wrong, but it's not enough to cause a skyrocket, a full dollar and change skyrocket in gas prices. That is drastic. And dollar and change at the pump, not just on the barrel. So this is a Joe Biden problem. And I'll explain why. So one of the things you hear from a lot of people that are against Biden and want, him to take more action is he shut down the Keystone Pipeline and he stopped new fracking and horizontal drilling on federal land. He did that on his first day in office. And you have the left going, well, Keystone, it wasn't even done, but also, it wasn't completed. And on top of that, it's Canadian oil. We're not even producing it. And they could still frack. They're still fracking. We're producing record numbers, and there's 9,000 contracts open. You will hear all of that come out. They love to give you these raw numbers when it benefits them, Because, when Trump was talking energy independence, they were calling him a liar for pointing out numbers. But when it benefits them, raw numbers, right? We have a huge supply of oil. Thanks, Trump. We are, all the old contracts are still intact. Thank you, Trump. And, we're producing more than ever, and we're set to produce more than ever again. Okay. All right. And, and those 9,000 contracts open, these oil companies should be drilling more. They never go into the fact that the oil companies need to inspect the land, make sure that the land actually has oil, if it's able to be drilled properly and safely in the way that they have to do all the regulations. But don't talk about semantics. They don't want to talk about semantics. They never want to talk about that. The other issue is, while they're giving you raw numbers, they don't tell you that we are not in a supply and demand area when it comes to oil anymore. It's an artificial market at this point. The selling of commodities, derivatives, and speculation have inflated the prices to an insane amount, similar to the way our stock market is extremely inflated since we got off the gold standard. We are in a fake market for oil. The prices are not what they really should be. And that really comes from what speculation has done to it. Right now, as we sit in this current world, oil speculation controls the pricing and more than production, 100%. What you are giving and getting real market is not what really is controlling the prices going up and down. So when Biden says no more new oil, no more new drilling on federal lands, and we're going to stop the Canadian flow of heavier flow of oil into the country, speculators look at that and look at it as a negative. So what do? They say, hey, that's going to increase some scarcity. So we're going to knock the price up a little bit because we think it's going to go higher. So they buy future derivatives, a lot of them. And a lot of the time, and as they buy more, that drives the prices up. That's a basic way. I'm not going into detail about how speculation works, but this is just your basic understanding. Look up oil speculation more if you want to. There's plenty of websites that explain how it works. But these speculators, they can, if you're just doing regular speculation, taking a quick bet, not buying a lot, it's not going to drive up the price. But when you're a major player that can buy a lot of futures and derivatives while speculating, that does a huge difference. And it's happened. Enron was a famous example of it. There was a commission meant to stop this type of speculation from creating an artificial market. They were weak. They were stripped of power over and over again. And then Enron created a workaround to them, which is what currently a lot of people use. They don't exchange on the New York Mercantile Exchange. They don't do it legally. So you're getting a lot of off-book stuff, and the speculation drives price, whether it's over or under speculation. And with Joe Biden shutting us down and making us not have any new drilling, yes, we're still drilling, but no new drilling, and a lesser flow of, not a lesser, but we're not getting an increased flow into America from Canada. The speculation made prices start to rise gradually already since January 20th, 2021. They have been steadily rising, and the numbers prove it. There's charts everywhere. Go look up how it's been rising. Now, the war certainly had an effect on increasing. It did. It did have an impact on increasing. Now, it's not necessarily because of us and what we did. It has a lot to do with Europe, because the global barrel went up because Europe uses a ton of Russian oil. But we could be mitigating that, and we could be fighting back that number if Joe Biden just did his fucking job. Before he came into office, we were a net exporter of oil, and the speculators were positive on that. They were bullish on that, the fact that we were net exporters and we were continuing to drill and using more resources and starting to help supply Europe and cut into Russian oil a little bit. That was good because we are a trusted nation. We are a good nation in terms of how our products work around the world. The prices right now are out of whack simply because Biden has put a stop to all this. He could really cut down prices tomorrow if he just announced that we're going to continue working on the Keystone Pipeline in the near future. And we are going to start granting new permits on federal land for fracking and horizontal drilling. That is huge. They wouldn't have to start it. That doesn't mean that we'd have to see immediate production of oil coming in. Just the announcements would cause speculators to buy futures differently. It would lower the price drastically. Simply because we'd be getting back in the game, and speculators will look positively on that. They'll say, hey, they're adding this much flow, therefore prices can come down because there's going to be this much more coming in. We're getting more and more. So we're going to see that the prices can go down. The speculation will go down. And on top of that, oil companies, when they get more of these grants, will have more capital spent. Now, why is that important? Because these companies were also hit by the shutdowns and the lockdowns. They also lost personnel. They also lost things. And I know people will say, well, we don't care about the big oil companies. They should go down. Let them get into their, use their record profits and blah, blah, blah. These fucking class warfare Marxists will say this dumb type of shit. And they know for a fact that that's just bad business not to do that. You don't do that. You don't dip into your profits. What you do is you use a system that continues to make you profits. And that is getting these new grants, getting these new capital, being able to rehire workers to go work these areas. And because you need people to test these areas, and they don't have these personnel to go and do this type of stuff. So you'll need to hire more of them. And you're not going to hire more if you're stagnant in your creation of your product. That's just basic shit. So Biden could be doing a lot. He could. But the issue is, this isn't a part of his plan. He's actually happy that we are being hit like this. He doesn't mind inflicting some pain on middle America. He really doesn't. Because there's an ultimate goal there. He is not necessarily leading this charge. Yes, he doesn't want fossil fuel production, along with a lot of people on the left. They don't. They want that to limit. But that's not by their direction. You've heard me talk about the World Economic Forum before. You've heard me talk about Klaus Schwab before. There is a green agenda coming out of them. The Green New Deal is a lot of their talking points from the World Economic Forum. There was a green agenda coming out of there. They're the ones that made the deadline of 2030. That we saw the Paris Peace Climate Accord saying 2030 was the number. Where that year come from? World Economic Forum. So they're the ones that have set the global initiative about the green agenda. And Biden is happy to follow through with it. They don't want oil prices to go down, fossil fuels to go down. They use this opportunity to push renewable resources. That is their main goal. And you see it. You see it, politicians and leftist media alike saying, hey, this is the time to make a strong push for renewables. Now that we see that dirty and evil oil and gas are really skyrocketing in prices, and look at how bad they are, and these greedy companies won't bring their prices down, we should really push into renewables. You see that everywhere now. This was a planned thing, everybody. Not necessarily the war happening, but with just using this crisis to now push their agenda is not a coincidence. And the fact that there's people in lockstep now saying it, they don't mind if middle America, lower class, middle class, and eventually upper middle class, you're going to get it too. You're the one sitting there going, stop complaining. You're going to be complaining in a few months. It's factual. You will be complaining in a few months, because if you're not one of the chosen elite, you will become the lower class. That's just how this type of shit works. They want a two-party. They don't want a two-class system. They don't like middle class. The elitists do not like the middle class. That is just, you are wannabes. You're getting in the way. And this is what they want. They're telling you to stop complaining because even these upper middle class people that believe in this bullshit want to get fossil fuels priced out of the market. They want people to turn on them because they're so expensive. They want people to sit there and all of a sudden go, okay, I will bankrupt myself to get a fucking electric car. I will really put myself out to go for that solar technology. I will do all this type of stuff, whether or not they can actually afford it and whether or not the tech is actually ready. That's what they want. They're okay with you hurting. Like I said, Joe Biden could put an end to this. He can put an end to this. He can, it might not go down to $2 again. With that, the war does have an effect on it. It's not like the war has no effect on it. The speculators certainly take this into account, but they would certainly see a positive if somebody like America could then supplement Europe. If we become net exporters again, if we could really start to supplement Europe and say, hey, we can't give you the whatever it was, 40 something percent of oil that Russia was providing you with, but we can certainly get up to about 10% and maybe start to gradually increase from there. And we can just pump and go. That could be a thing, but it's not, because Joe Biden doesn't want it. Instead, what did he do? Tried to make phone calls to Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates to ask them to turn their spigots up and up their production to kind of help his ass, to make it look like he's trying to do something. They fucking ignored him. They didn't pick up their phones. They don't care. They have the power over him right now, and they know it. What's his next step? What's his next brilliant plan? Let's turn to Venezuela and the Maduro regime. Likely partners there, because Biden loves what Maduro's done with the place. They're democratic socialists down there, just throwing that out there. But turning to them, they're going to ease their some sanctions on Venezuela to buy oil, dirty oil from Venezuela. It's not clean oil. It's not very good refined oil, shit oil and natural gas from them, to ease sanctions. Now, this is a regime that nationalized their oil companies. So it is going directly to the government and to the Maduro arms. And by the way, America has not recognized Maduro as the rightful leader and the rightful regime there. So we're going to be doing deals with a leader that we haven't acknowledged in a country that has destroyed its own economy, destroyed its own people. And now so many people there are so fucking poor when they were once a booming capitalist society. They are now a very socialist, Marxist, wokeist, communist, whatever ist you want to fucking choose is what they are down there. And their people are suffering mightily. And this is the country that Joe Biden wants to do work with and do deals with to try and ease prices here and enrich them a little more. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. He'd rather see you and me suffer. And I say you to everybody, you're upper middle class yuppie right now that are telling everyone to stop complaining. I'm talking to you too. They'd rather see all of us suffer and drop down and down and down and down and down the economic ladder than help us out. It's get the renewables now, or else you're going to go down. If you still want to rely on dirty fossil fuels, you're going to go down. If you still want to eat meat, it's a luxury item for the rich. Fuck you. You're going to go down. If you still want to use natural gas in your house, you're going to go down. Get that solar, motherfucker. Don't do that. Don't use that natural gas. Figure it out. Go all electric and then solar. Listen, it sounds like fear mongering, but the proof is in the pudding here, people. The proof is in the pudding. The actions that Biden is taking or not taking tells you everything you need to know. A lot of people know what can be done, what should be done, what has to be done now to really ease pain right now. It's not getting done. It's not because they don't know to do it. It's because they don't want to do it. So I say, like I said at the beginning, keep complaining about the gas prices. Really ring the bell on your fucking natural gas prices when they come in. Complain about oil prices when you have to refill your tank again. Make it loud and clear. Make sure you rally other people to it, because everybody is going to eventually start hurting. Everyone. It may be too late before enough people realize it, but if you start banging the drum now, keep complaining now, talk to people like humans that maybe are iffy about it, and let them know the things that I said here. What can be done. When people tell you, oh, the Keystone, it's Canadian oil, it doesn't do anything. We're producing record numbers already. The 9,000 open contracts, they're not using them. Just tell them that has nothing to do with the prices, people. It's all speculation. We are not a supply and demand anything anymore, really. Not even the stock market. Most things are not supply and demand anymore. We're dealing with an artificial market. Oil, natural gas, and home gas and home heat oils, whatever gases, are no exception. It's all artificial. So it's all based off speculation. So when they try and throw this fucking raw numbers at you, just tell them they don't know what they're talking about. Or they do know what they're talking about and they are lying intentionally and misleading you. Don't let them use the bleeding heart Venezuela shit on you either. We should not have to suffer because another country is at war. We usually don't in this country. We usually don't feel it. Why are we feeling it now? We shouldn't be. It's by design. Make sure you get people to realize this. Talk to them. Get out in November. Get the leftists the fuck out. Get the establishment, rhino Republicans out. Get some populists in there. Get some libertarians in there and win this back. And please, if you have enough time to complain and write a diatribe on Facebook, write to your senator. Write to your congressman. Start working campaigns. Do these types of things. Make a difference and make the change yourself. If you have the time to fucking complain on Facebook, put the time to do things elsewhere. Again, say it loud, say it proud, complain. We're Americans. We earn the right to do it. Do it up. No more fucking high gas prices. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening. Like, share, follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. The Alex Cuesta Show. Search that anywhere you can find social media. Hopefully, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see everybody. Thanks for listening, y'all.